Welcome back. Now for this video I'm going to be using the Fibrefloral, which is a more environmentally friendly version of floral foam. This one is by the company Smithers Oasis. If you've been watching me for a while, you'll know that I'm not a great lover of this product because it is really difficult to work with, but it's a way of showcasing to you other products that are available out there. You might be able to pick up on the fact here that we've got a little bit of the foam that's a little dislodged. I'm going to pull that off. Now, if you haven't used Fibrefloral before, it feels very much like that insulation that you've got in the attic. That sort of insulation that's really quite itchy and a bit scratchy on your hands. So if you are quite sensitive, I would suggest wearing some gloves when you use this, because it can cause a little bit of irritability when you're working with it. Now, what I've done with a full block of the Fibrefloral, so this is the same size as a green block of floral foam. So I've cut it in half down the middle and I've put two pieces on top of one another. Now, you can see the amount of water that runs out. Now, you can use this on its side, but the problem you have is the water runs out of it. So I've cut it in half so that I've got two blocks sitting on top of one another. And you will possibly be able to see, if I bring the camera in a little closer, or you can see even more clearly now because it's tipped out over the desk, you can see that as I'm sort of pushing it into the container, there is lots of water coming out of it. But one of the benefits is that it does soak up water really quickly. But what I find is when I push flowers into the top, the foam itself almost splays out and it sections off. If you think about a gatto with lots of different layers, and if you push your fingers down into the middle, it all falls apart. Then this foam almost does the same. So I'm hoping that if I put some sphagnum moss, so this is ordinary florist moss, if I put this down the sides, I'm thinking it might stop my foam from pushing out towards the side. Now, I have tried unsuccessfully to use this to be a bit more environmentally friendly and to use a better product, but it is really difficult to use in commercial everyday work. But it's good to practice with at home, and I would suggest that to get to grips with it, you practice several times because it is a tricky one to work with. Just going to get my tea towel just to mop up that spill. Now, the foam I think is better arranged in this format where you have flowers in from above, but for today I want to bring in some flowers from the side, so you can come along with me on my little journey and you can feel my frustrations, and if there's anybody that's got any hints and tips on how to be more successful with it, then I'm always ready to learn something new. It has been suggested that you use the foam dry, and then when you hydrate it, it swells around the stems. Tried that and that wasn't successful at all. But I'm going to do, I don't know if this design has got a shape. It's probably similar to a triangle, but it's going to be a low down design, but quite wide. I don't have a big choice of flowers in here, or I have a big choice of flowers, but I don't have a lot of quantity. It's lots of things that have been left from jobs that I've done throughout the week that I don't really want to waste. So I'm going to match some colours in with this lovely blue, and I can already see a design fault. No, I'm okay. What I was going to say was there's a seam down the side of this container, and I did think that I put my foam in at an angle, but we're okay. So I'm going to do this front facing, not very tall, but possibly wide, and I've got this great container. I've not used this before on the channel. This is going to be used in workshops here in the studios I've only got one in the studio during June and July for like a Mediterranean sort of style arrangement, and it's from Oasis. You'll probably be able to buy it on Oasis Home and Hobby, and it's metal with a plastic inner so that my water doesn't leak out over the table. And I'm going to start with two blue delphinium, and I've only got two left over. They were used in some funeral work on the weekend, and I looked at lots of different containers and I decided to use this one, but I really struggled with what style to do, and I've decided on the style that hopefully this is going to turn out to look like. So you're coming along with me on a journey of exploration. So I'm going to go quite shorter than that, with my two little delphiniums. I nearly called them hydrangeas then, and this one I think is going to go a tad taller, so that's going to give me the height. There are a couple of petals dropping off on the lower foliage, and already I've got a big hole in my foam where delphinium has flopped backwards. Can you see that? I've already got a really wobbly delphinium. Big gap already in my foam there. Now if you're using fresh delphinium, then you won't get the petal drop like I'm getting at the moment. These are just about a week old and I'm just using them up for your benefit. I'm not selling this to anybody and it's not going out to a customer. But what I've done with the shorter pieces is I've brought some towards the back, and that prevents that design looking really flat at the back. And this is going to be the top, the tallest part of my arrangement. And I think I'm going to come down to the side. But I don't really know what the style is going to turn out to be. It's sort of evolving in my mind as I talk. Now you might want to look away at this point if you don't like flowers that are dyed, but I do have a beautiful hydrangea. It was white and I've sprayed it blue to really pick up on the blue tone of my container. I've done quite a light dusting of the blue spray so it doesn't look too artificial. And what I'm going to do with this is put it quite close to the base. It's almost acting as a base weight to cover my foliage. And one of the benefits of this foam is that it works well when material is close to the base. So we've got that big blue hydrangea there, and I've sat it off centre because I don't like things in the middle. They don't look right. They look really artificial. And then to give me my sides, I've got a Lissianthus. I nearly said clematis. I don't have any clematis. I've got a Lissianthus, and this is also a funny colour. And I am slightly doubting my flower choice for today. Maybe it's not going to work, but it's nice maybe for you to see something that doesn't go quite according to plan. Now I can't for a minute remember the name of this one, but it's a fairly new double Lissianthus. It's the frilly Lissianthus. I've got a feeling it's capped in something, but I'll put it in the caption or I'll add it on the screen during the editing session. It's almost like a grey toned, and it's been developed to go with all the dusky, vintage, sort of romantic colours. And I did initially think it was going to work really well with the blue, and now I'm thinking, not quite so sure, but I'm going to go for it. And if you don't like it, you can tell me in the comment box. You can say, Sharon, that is rubbish, and I won't be offended. So we're going to start with creating a bit of width. And this is sometimes where this foam doesn't hold up quite so well. And I'm almost doing a triangle that's wider than it is tall, whereas normally I would do a triangle that is taller than it is wide. But if you can remember back to school, I'm sure you can remember triangles can be whatever size they want to be. So I'm going to start creating a bit of an outline, and I'm going to feed some through that hydrangea. I was anticipating the bluey tones to work quite well with this one, with the grey, but now I'm doubting my flower choice. But you know, there are lots of people that likes to make comments on the videos, and I'd be happy for you to tell me what your opinion is. This worked particularly well with wedding flowers that we did a few days ago, but they were much softer and a much paler version. It might not work, but I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to be confident, fake it until you make it, as they say, and hopefully you will enjoy what I'm doing. So I've got a bit of an outline shape at the back, and now I need to bring this colour around towards the front. It's a fairly symmetrical design, although I don't really want it perfect on both sides. I don't want that perfect matchy triangle. We've sort of moved away from that now in fashion styles. There's nothing wrong with creating a triangle that matches on both sides, but we have such a beautiful array of flowers and foliages now. We can be a bit more playful. And at the front here, I'm struggling slightly to get my soft stemmed Lissianthus in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bottom stem, which is a bit thicker, to poke a hole there in the front. And then, now I've got the hole, I can pop that little head in. So it's, if you've got soft stem flowers, it's not the best foam to use. And I'm going to keep using up all of the stem to create that outline. So if we think of this at the front, it also tapers here to a point. And I've got the height, which also tapers away down to the end. So it's a triangle. It's a shorter version. So it would look really lovely in a window. You could put it at the back of a buffet table. And I'm hoping that by the time I've added lots of different material, the brightness of that blue isn't going to be quite so dominant, because at the moment it's a bit bright. This one is Astilbe, and I've got Astilbe coming through in the garden at the moment, so there's plenty of it, and you might see a lot of it during June and July, sorry, when it's available for me to pick from the garden. This is a sort of creamy white colour, and it is really gorgeous in this arrangement because it's got that nice soft texture, and it's going to draw your eyes slightly away from that very heavy hydrangea. Now I have used the hydrangea as base weight, and I've used it almost instead of greenery. I didn't want to leave it white because I felt it was quite stark against the container, but maybe leaving it white would have been my best option. But we're doing it now, we're doing it. And if you've just joined me, if you haven't been on this channel before, then I'm not normally this indecisive. I normally know exactly what I'm doing, but I'm using up flowers that are left here today. And if you are new, then welcome. My name is Sharon. There is a whole host of videos on the channel for you to learn floral design. I've also got a private Facebook group that you can join me on called Sharon's Innovations Group. Please don't send me a personal message because I won't be there to listen to it. But if you want to join the group, you can share some photos of the design work that you do at home. Even if you're a beginner, come and join us and have a little chit chat with like-minded people. Now as I've been chatting, I've reinforced the outline with some short pieces of eucalyptus, and I've created, or I've strengthened, I should say, the outline and created a bit of depth by adding some of the eucalyptus at the base. That draws your eye downwards and creates recession. And if you're not familiar with lots of the words that I use during the tutorial, then I do have an elements and principles guide that you can purchase. You can follow the link in the description boxes at the end. And I do also have a care and conditioning guide that you can also buy. It tells you how to care for all your beautiful flowers. So that's the basic shape that we've got in. And now we're going to add in a dusky pink colour by adding in some carnations. Now these are just a standard ordinary carnation that you can pick up in a florist shop. They're not quite open yet, these are quite new stock, so I'm just going to do that sort of fluff in method to open the header. It's quite a dusky pink, a very muted shade. Does work really well, I think, alongside the Lissianthus. It's that blue of the hydrangea that I'm not sure of, but we'll see how it works. I thought I was clever by spray painting it blue, and maybe I should have just left it white. But I'm going to start with 3 of these lovely little, or they're not little, they're really large, 3 of the gorgeous carnations. And if you've not arranged with carnations before, you need to remember to cut on the internode and not on these knobbly bits here, because they don't take up water. 3 of these in the centre. Now that blue is not quite so dominant, so my plan is working okay. I'm pleased now that the arrangement is coming together more effectively. And then we're going to have 2 carnations a little bit further towards the back. And surprisingly, as I've been chatting to you, I've not really noticed that I'm arranging in the Fibrefloral. So I think maybe I've got a little bit more accustomed to using it, and it now doesn't seem quite so difficult to use. It's definitely harder to arrange flowers in at the front rather than the top. So bear that in mind if you are creating something. And I've got an even distribution of that really dusky pink before I add any more flowers. I have 2 lilac roses. Told you I had a strange combination of flowers. I've got 2 lilac roses which will pop, one on the left, one on the right. I'm not going to do them in those perfectly symmetrical positions because just looks really silly. Looks like a pair of headlights staring at you. So one is a bit higher than the other. And now I think the design is more pleasing and is coming together quite nicely. Still got that triangle shape. I don't have to worry about adding any greenery at the back because I've already pretty much covered my floral foam. I've just now got to think about adding some softer flowers in and breaking up some of the heavy hydrangea. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to add in some grasses. Now we're in June and everywhere you go at the moment there are some really delightful grasses growing on the side of the road. If you've got a wildflower meadow or you've got an area in your garden that you've left go a bit wild for the wildlife, then there are all these beautifully textured grasses. And you might think I'm a bit of a cheapskate, but they add in so much texture and so much lightness to an arrangement. They're going to look really, really gorgeous. And there's a slight pink tone, which is going to help pick up on the pink colour of my carnation. Now I think here in the UK, we probably think of grasses, decorative grasses like this, as being a bit of a pest. But if you watch the international floral designers, they use a huge amount of grasses in their floral designs. It brings in some wonderful movement into an arrangement, adds in that different texture, that different colour palette. It's really quite interesting and really quite soft. And because they naturally dry, they don't die in your arrangement. They just very naturally dry and stay in the arrangement for ages. And it's really quite lovely to use. As they dry, the head's size changes and the colours change, and they are really pretty to use. And they're working quite well in the Fibrefloral because I did wonder, were they going to snap and not work particularly well. Now I did have a couple of offshoots from the side of the delphinium, so I'm going to pop those in at the back as well, just alongside the main delphinium. We don't want to waste them. I'm just going to finish it off with some more of the Lissianthus. I absolutely love Lissianthus. It's one of my favourites to use in all different types of arrangements. There are now such a range of colours and flower heads, shapes. This is my favourite because it almost looks like a ballerina's tutu. It's got loads of different layers on it. And it matches so well with the lilacs. I'm not quite sure if it matches with the blue. But we're going to go for it. We're going to keep adding because that's all I've got today. I haven't got a different flower that I can change it for. Now hydrangeas are a really thirsty flower. So please make sure if you're arranging with hydrangeas that you add a lot of water and that you condition them properly at the beginning. It's not really the season for hydrangeas because we're at the beginning of the summer, but if you start using them in the autumn when they're coming through in the gardens, they are exceptionally thirsty. So make sure that they're in deep water when you condition them and that you don't leave them out of water for any length of time. Did you see what happened then? When you try and add in anything from the side, sometimes that flower snaps. And that's where it's beneficial to maybe have a cocktail stick or a kebab stick by your side. And you can poke a little hole in that Fibrefloral first of all, so that you're not at risk of your flowers breaking. And I don't think I'm going to add anything extra in there flower-wise, but I am going to finish off with some short pieces of Ruscus. This is florist grade Ruscus, and we use this a lot in wedding work, funeral work. And what I do is I cut off those little shoots from the bottom because sometimes you don't need them on the base of the greenery. And I keep them all to one side so that if I'm creating designs and I need a little bit of a gap filler, then the Ruscus works particularly well. I love this in buttonholes. It's a nice, fresh, vibrant green and it works so well. And this is really the last flower or the last foliage that I'm going to be adding in, and then I'm going to step back and have a look at the design, and I'm going to be really happy with it. The hydrangea, you might think at this point that adding that hydrangea in at the base was a waste of money because it is almost hidden. But what it's done is it's covered my floral foam and it's prevented me from using up loads and loads of different greenery. So the choice really you've got is to, do you use an expensive flower to cover your foam, or do you use lots of greenery? So it hasn't turned out quite as bad as I thought it was going to be in the beginning when I first added in that blue hydrangea. I think that's quite lovely. It's got a very nice Mediterranean feel to it, which is what I was hoping. By adding in those cool blues and that soft pink, I think that design has turned out really quite well. This would look lovely sitting in a window or a little alcove somewhere, and it would be ideal for the church on the back of the altar. Hopefully you've enjoyed that tutorial and you're as pleased with the finished design as I am. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell to be told every time I upload a new tutorial. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.